understand what registering means. Let's see, access is also definitely an issue. We are a polling site, so we have people coming and voting at our 57 Central Park site, so there's access there, and we promote that. We make sure we stay open as late as possible until the polls close so that people can come in if they want to vote. I think those are really a lot of my key points. Again, I think it's just really important to get to know what people's issues are and concerns are, who they are, what their issue is all about, and not to sort of judge them or beat them over the head if they're not voting. They're not voting for a lot of reasons. I generally don't think it's because they don't care. I just think that they really don't feel like it's going to make a difference. And it's really important for us who do vote, and I've voted since I was 18 years old, beyond the presidential election, to continue to encourage people to vote. It's only important, and it's really important in this community. Again, we're the 5th poorest city in the nation. We need a lot of help here. Socially, politically, economically, there's a lot of things going on here, but it's really important for us to get out.
Can you actually turn this back on? Because that actually helps with the lighting up here.
Sure.
Because it got real dim. I'll just move around. And that's actually a great reminder of National Vote Day. The brain works a certain way, and the more you keep hitting the brain, hitting the brain, hitting the brain,
there goes.
the brain gets it. You're going to need at least 7 times for a new message for your brain to say, oh, that's right. Tom, I can see you. I'm glad to see you here. And so we start our question and answer session. I'm actually really excited because one of the things, we got a great panel, Dr. Kane and Dr. Nealon. I moved over here because I like to learn, because I never will know the answer. No one will ever know the answer if we're not constantly trying to find out, well, wow, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. So different ways of thinking. And I carry my little great book. Because when I leave here, what I'm going to do with this book is, I'm going to take some of the things I heard here, and I'll put it in my arsenal of, oh, that's why. So my first disclaimer is, I'm only going to give you a perspective. Why people don't vote? I don't know. Depends on who you talk to. Why you may vote as a male may be different why she votes as a female. Why I may vote as this age group may be different than why you may vote as that. So one of the things I believe in very specific questions. It's a general question, and it's a great exercise to ask different folks from different socio-ethnic demographic backgrounds why they do and don't do certain things. So I'm only going to give you a perspective from my view. Again, my name is George Moses, 47. I've been doing this since I was 14. I actually sat when Dr. Nealon was talking, and I was like, wow, I've been doing this over 30 years of my life. My first experience with voter education and registration was with Baker Street. I was a community organizer, and that was my first summer job. So the community organizer, I'm not going to say her name, she would take me out, she took me to a community meeting, she said, we're going to talk about registering voters. And then she left me. And I was like, what do you want me to say to these people? She said, well, just talk about the stuff we've been training you about. And I'm like, I'm 14 years old. Here's what's even crazier. When she left me, exactly what she said happened. So they said, so what should we do? And I'm like, wow, I'm 14 years old. So when Dr. Nealon said, he said corrupt, I'm going to use a different word. We're flawed. Because we're in our First Asbury Church, can we agree on this? Since Adam and Eve, we're flawed. Let's just chalk that up. We're going to have flaws. Do not expect a person to be perfect. Don't expect it, because they're going to let you down every time. So don't raise an unrealistic expectation. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I believe, and why we have a problem, where you got to address this problem at. And Mr. Ferraci, please feel free to chime in, because he actually went through a lot of these experiences with me. One of the first is the process. I think a lot of folks do not understand the process, and it's an insider's process. Everyone has an opportunity to be inside, but it is an insider's process. By a show of hands, how many members here, people here tonight, are members of their local election committee in their neighborhood? In their neighborhood. How many? We got one. Which election district?
22.
20. LD? Because I know LD 22 is not LD 22. Where do you live?
In Brighton.
Yeah, it's not 22, because 22 is in the middle of the city.
All right, and I messed it up.
Which, don't worry, which district?
Wheatland.
Wheatland?
Yeah, we don't have a committee. We're
Okay.
running with that one.
Did we have someone over here? You know, he's a cheat. He knows all the answers. I'm a member of 21, Legislative District 21, the 21st election district. One of the reasons when I first got involved in that is we actually got involved because of high grass and weeds. We wanted to know why the grass wasn't getting cut on vacant lots in our neighborhood. And someone told us, well, you got to talk to your elected official. They'll tell you about it. And as Dr. Kane said, they kept ignoring us. Then someone said, well, they're at this meeting. If you go there, they'll talk to you. So we went to that meeting, but at that time we were outsiders. We had to be insiders. So we found out how to be insiders, because all politics, from county, city, to the President of the United States, is local. Mr. Faraci, would you agree or disagree?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Your local election organizing committee is, I believe in that process, because it's actually, to me, your entry point into politics. What it is you have, for your little neighborhood where you stay, there's 4 people who go around every 2 years, and they say, I want to represent you on this bigger committee. My job, my opinion, those folks are supposed to take your concerns up to your elected officials, because these elected officials have to come through here, through that committee, because they have to get on the ballot. And the local organizing committee is responsible for putting them on the ballot. That's the entry point. Most people don't even know it exists. So if you start at the foundation of it, we got a problem at the foundation, because that's the entry point into it. So when people are saying they're not interested in it, I can tell you why politicians won't come to, if you have 100 some odd people, they're going to check to see who voted. If I know this side votes for me, that side doesn't vote, because you can check. You can just pull up the voter rolls, Mr. Faraci, and my tag saying that's incorrect. You can tell if a person voted the primary or general election.
Do we have voting history?
You can look. So if I know they're going to vote and you're not, where am I going? You can give me the sad song and say, well, don't you care about us? Yeah, but I care about them first. Because they affect my future. I hope but you have the same opportunity to be an insider. I hope you get there, because when you get here, I'll see you here. Otherwise, I got to make sure this group's happening. I'm going to listen to this group, because this group is insiders and they clearly understand the process. That's your local organizing committees. And those folks, I believe, because I take my job serious, I love having folks in my neighborhood. That's my entry level, and that's actually enough politics for me. They bring me to different issues, and they say, this is what's going on in the neighborhood. A lot of you folks probably do this already. Neighborhood watch, block leaders. You have folks who just come to you and you know what's going on. Because a representative is a person, he or she, who represents your ideas in their area. So if they're not talking to you, whose ideas are they representing? Whose ideas is Donald Trump representing? Yeah, but like I was sitting out, it's comical. I'm like, wow, where did he get that? And I was sitting there thinking, if I ever see him, talk to me about this wall. How do you envision this wall? Is it going to be a concrete wall, a wood wall? Is it going to be like the Great Wall of China? And how did you think of this? How did you think of this? Who told you that? So representing, the art of representing an idea requires you to be involved, talking to folks. Hear what they got to say. So we're talking about a system, the system of representation, representing ideas, got to get fixed. But it's fixed at the local level. Ma'am?
I understand your concept very well. Where do you find this local election committee? Are they in the phone book?
I'm going to do a pull. The Board of Elections has a beautiful site. That's one of the first places I would start. Because on the Board of Elections, they have this new thing now, like on election night. You can actually file the election, then the canvas report comes out. It tells you who actually ran for what seats. But for Democrats, it's Monroe County Democratic headquarters, where a list of the Democratic, and I'm sorry, I don't know where Republicans is kept.
We put, I don't know, either parties, I guess they do something with the website, but we put up candidates as soon as they're available. As a matter of fact, candidates for Monroe will be up very soon, because now we're just adding independents. And probably in another week, so candidates are listed will be up there. So all the candidates are listed on our site. What the parties do, you know, is some of them put up information about candidates or what have you, but that's all repetitious to what we do.
So I always use the Board of Elections website, because that's a good place to start. And then from there, you can actually, they can direct you. So I really believe in pushing people to the process, because the process, once you're an insider, does work. But you gotta get there.
George, all of the phone numbers for the political parties are up on our site too, so the leadership or whatever. They want to get a hold of a party, they can come to our site and they can get information.
So simple as the Google Board of Elections, Monroe County, Rochester, New York. And that'll give you a starting point. So I'm gonna jump to this side. These are the new insiders. So I'm gonna leave you folks out, because I know what you're saying, well, we matter too. So the local organizing committee is where you actually start that's the foundation. That's where the foundation, where all politics starts at, is right at the local, where you get a chance. And I would encourage everyone, when you go home, find out where you live at, look in your ED, and find out who that person is. Who is the person representing me, not at city council, not at county, not at the mayor or supervisor, but my neighborhood? Who is my neighborhood representative?
Mr. Moses, in the suburbs, we really don't have a lot of people that I would select to work with.
That are on your local?
I'm very local, I'm comparing them, and it's sad to say that most of our suburbs, we don't have an opportunity to become involved in a lot of the parties that we like. Rather than Penfield, we have, I don't want to mention parties.
I got you, catch you. But it's a great question where you start at, and then you call them on the phone. Because those folks, she said in her area, there's not a lot of opportunities to get involved. Where she previously lived was better than where she currently is now. This is a suburban example. So what I would still encourage is, even where you are now, find out who those people are. There's 4 of them. And if you don't like what they do, replace them. Just like they ran, everybody in this room can get out and run. I always start with, did you know this person was representing you? I always start there. Most people in my neighborhood, I've been there for over 12 years, representing my ED. And it was simple. They said, we know you, Mr. Moses. We see you out doing stuff in the neighborhood. We see you doing the work. Can you do it? Sure.
What's an ED?
Election district, which is a compilation of streets. It's basically like saying a block club. So who represents your block? That's where you start. Most folks don't understand the process. And it's an insider's process, but it's easy to be an insider. Just know the process. Then you move from there. That way you can actually influence the representative who is presenting your ideas. Make sure you tell them what you want. One of the second things I believe is an issue is, and as we talked, I think the term they used was civil discourse. Rochester, New York, the home of Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony and the FIGHT organization, is averse to conflict. We don't like it. We don't like conflict that much. We want things to change, but not like that. I went to 1872 Cafe, and I could imagine, just think about it, what did it take Susan B. Anthony on that day to say, everyone said, you can't vote. Women, you can't vote. Those women had to sit and say, We are going here to vote irregardless of the conflict. So that means you're going to have to walk up to, Dr. Neal, you're going to have to walk up to someone. I'm here to vote. And this person already knows you can't do it. You got to go, I'm here to vote. I know what it says. I don't care. I'm here to vote. To speak up for what you want to have done. I have an issue. Let's talk about it. We can absolutely have civil discourse, but we must have some discourse. What's happening now is we're pushing everything down. And it's like everything, if you can imagine that rug that is everything pushed under, it's like a huge mountain in the middle of the room. There's so many issues we're not talking about. Conflict doesn't bother me, because I think through conflict, growth occurs. How that conflict occurs, I've seen that people hold it so much, they hold it, that when you finally get an opportunity to address it, it explodes. Because we're not having that discourse. Because we're civilized people. We can have discourse, and I think you need to have it on a more regular basis, tackling very tough issues. I got an issue we're tackling now on mixed income, where one side is saying, well, we don't want mixed income because that means gentrification. On another side, they're saying, well, I hear what you're saying about poverty, but I don't want to stay in a poor neighborhood all the rest of my life. I like for this neighborhood to come up. Well, that's gentrification. Well, I don't want to stay in poor people all my life. How can we help other folks to move up? So what happens is, well, forget it. We're not going to talk about anything. And so what our politicians do, if it's controversial, they just stay away from it. Well, I don't know. Let's not talk about that. This is well, you want to take a picture with me? That's what one of the funniest things one of our politicians said to me. I went to talk about an issue, and they said, well, do you want a picture with me? No, I can't talk about this issue. But that's what they're used to. When folks go and see your representative, they're famous. They don't represent you anymore, but they're famous, and I can appease you. Let me just take a picture with you. You can hang it up on your mantle, and you can tell people you know me. You can't be afraid of it. I had to say, no, I don't want a picture. I want to talk about this grass. I just want to know how to cut this grass. That's it. But we've allowed, and I believe this is only going to make our system better, to help our representatives get better. We have to, I believe, this is our system. I always say to folks, welcome to America. I love saying everybody laughs when I say it. I say, good morning, welcome to America. And I understand the history of America, as our esteemed professor and our esteemed doctor said. It's a beautiful country. Gave you the history of our government. Oh, believe me, our government came through conflict. And if I'm wrong, please somebody tell me, then I'll just go back to the history books and just start scribbling stuff out. I read how they did the Declaration of Independence. I read these amendments, and I believe them. So I appropriate the freedoms that this country gave to me. So as you're talking to folks, it's a huge education process. And you have to do it over and over and over again. But it's a beautiful thing once you start telling folks the truth. We're insiders now. And then once they come from being outsiders to insiders, and then they get an opportunity to see, wait a minute. When your elected officials come in, they come in and see you in the room, they're coming right up to you, how are you, sir? Good to see you at the meeting, because now I know you're an insider. What can I do? What is your name again? Oh, okay. Good to see you. Once folks start to experience that more, it's going to make but it's going to be a huge conflict, because now you have, I think it was articulated in one of the PowerPoints. Politics is also about the allocation of resources. So if we were to change the demographics in this room, they may have a different set of wishes than this current group does. So if this group has been able to get what they want, and then all of a sudden this group comes in, this group is not going to just give it up. Because we've gotten used to a certain quality of life. Yeah, we want you to be involved, but not like that. Not like that. So we got to be honest with, do we want it all? Do we want some? How much are we willing to, what is just? We hear this constant conversation about the 10%ers who have everything. They'll never be able to spend it in their lifetime, but they're not willing to give it up. That's capital gains. Because they're having a whole conversation about capital gains, and they keep winning, which is absolutely amazing to me. So we had to fight about social and corporate welfare. Corporate welfare is winning. Corporate welfare far outweighs social welfare. So as we think about, as we talk about this change, you're gonna have to think about, am I on that receiving side of, I'm getting it now, am I willing to give up something to get others involved? And if so, be ready for that conflict and what it looks like. I would plan for it. Because no group is gonna stay down forever. History has shown it. I'm betting on history. It's a cycle. So I'm glad we were able to come here and have a conversation. I really look forward to the discourse in terms of your questions and your insights, because there's years of experience. I'm looking out to the crowd. I'd love to hear some of the experiences on, well, why is this group more involved in the process, and why don't you vote, why do you vote? And what are those issues that you have that folks are listening to? So I can glean and put in as we continue to do voter education and registration. Even on registration, less than 10% of people you register will vote. But we still do it. And is that the number, Mr. Faraci?
It depends on the election.
So we want to have more folks involved in the process, but there's a lot of work to getting them involved. It's going to take more than just an event. We're all going to have to sacrifice something. I've learned a lot in this process of getting involved and changing a lot of my views in terms of what I had to do. So we're all going to have to go through on an individual basis, understanding how have I benefited from this system as it currently is. And if we allow others into it, what will I have to, I'm not going to say lose, what will I have to share? So as we share this allocation, because the pot is not growing bigger, it's growing smaller. And the current process we have for the allocation of resources goes through our political process. So again, I look forward to the questions, and I kind of sit over here because the lights up my eyes.
Well, we're open for questions now. So does somebody, or a statement, right? Does somebody have a question or a statement they want to make? I'll give this over to Jen, and she can do the crowd, and then...
Do you have any information with regard to some of the states that do have extended voting arrangements in terms of their percentages? Has it gone up markedly? Not, you know, what's the practical output of some of
Right, that's a great question. So the question is, so early voting, right? So early voting's been around for at least a decade now. And do I need this? Can you all hear me? Because I talk loud. So that's just the thing. Yeah, so in fact, it has gone up. It doesn't change as dramatically as you think, but like any other voting scheme, right? You have to be trained on how to use it. Now, again, League of Women Voters is a direct descendant of Susan B. Anthony's organization that led to the 19th Amendment. League of Women Voters is created as an aftermath of that. And women did not vote in large percentages up until the 1950s or 60s. The generations had to learn how to vote. So early voting is probably too early, but once people became familiar with it, I expect, again, based upon the fact that it's already bumped a little bit, that would have a tremendous effect. Again, as people make a decision. So we talk about people who are living in constrained circumstances. You know, people in the city move a lot, right, for a variety of reasons. You know, the kid starts in one school district and then, you know, 2 or 3 school districts by the time it's over. For a variety of reasons, economic reasons, sometimes they're in a bad situation, they need to move. So what happens, how do they know where to vote? Right? How do they know? If we had same-day registration, it wouldn't matter. that, you know, well, I registered 25 days before, but then I moved. Can I still vote in my old, you know, polling site? And where is that? And how do I get back to my old neighborhood now? See, this is what I'm talking about. So there are structures that we could change. Early voting, expand voting, so people don't have to put it into a certain block of time. Again, there's a variety of reasons why that's just a bad idea if we really think voting is important. And again, we're constrained by our legislature, and people aren't voting, so they're not voting to make changes, and they're not getting the political parties to attend to some of these ideas. So, but you're right, I really do think early voting would make a difference.
I'm had an idea actually for, you know, I always vote and I wear the I voted today.
Yeah.
And when people see it, they go, oh yeah, I should do that. But they realize that day is too late to do any kind of research on the candidates. It's like, because if I'm going to vote, I'm going to want to know what I'm voting for. So maybe I'm voting on Tuesday and start wearing it on Sunday. Just so they have some time if they said, you know, I really should. Because they'll feel guilty. They'll go, oh, well, I don't know enough about the candidates and now there's no time to really do any research. You know, that sort of thing. So I'm voting on Tuesday.
I'm voting on Tuesday. And maybe an I'm registered sticker too, to remind people 25 days before, oh, by the way, you have to do it the way the rules are written now. You have to do it 25 days.
Hi, I have a comment and then a question. The woman who just spoke touches on the comment that I did a lot of voter registration, and so many people said I don't want to register to vote because I don't know enough. It's too hard to understand the issues, and the TVs are just negative ads against each other, and I don't know enough, and I feel I'll make a mistake. So kudos to your work on that, and we need more for empowerment. My question is on the online voting. Theoretically, you're supposed to, well, not theoretically, but when you vote, it's private, and you don't want to be pressured by anybody to vote. When you're in that, you can vote. But if you're online, if you're in home, you're on your home, and you're on the computer, and somebody's standing behind you saying, no, you have to vote, you know, being pressured by somebody else in the house, I'd like to know how you respond, you know, to that possibility. It's not independent.
So the question really is about voter fraud or voter influence, and I'm sure, sadly, that there are circumstances of this happening already. I mean, early voting opens us up to the fact that somebody could be pressured, and you know, not that a political party would perhaps go out and you know do anything fraudulent, but in fact they might. And again, you cannot, I do not think, like anything else, a dam is not going to guarantee your safety from a flood. Now, Mount Morris has done a good job for 50 years, but it does not mean that a flood will not come like Hurricane Agnes did in '72 and wipe that out and lead to flooding in Rochester. I can't guarantee 100% integrity in all voting. So the question is, what public policy choice do I want to make? Would I rather make the voting more expansive and therefore to have more people in the system and perhaps swamp any of these irregularities or fraudulent activity? Or would I rather keep the system as it is now because I think there's voter integrity, I suspect there's voter integrity, but I can't guarantee it. And so it's so, you know, shall we say, so much integrity that in Florida they were going through looking at dangling chads 15 years ago, trying to figure out voter intent, which by itself led to a problem of somebody seeing something that the other political party would not, right? My voter intent. So I can't guarantee it. And so my response is, I guess I'd rather trust that the majority of people would overcome voting irregularities. But that would be a problem. That would absolutely be a problem. And I suspect it's a problem in early voting.
I would also say that nothing is really sacred anymore.
Right.
We are catching a lot of things on video.
Right.
That might be one. People are taping. They are taping the police, unfortunately, doing some things inappropriately. People are catching people doing things all the time. So if someone's trying to pressure you to go against what you want to do, I would ask them, what did you say? And I would say that part, so I can make my choice in private.
Very good. George, do you want to respond to this?
Always have a question.
So I am 67 years old, and I've been voting since I was 21. I have never missed an election, ever. Even when I was in the hospital, I did the absentee, and I had somebody once wheel me in a wheelchair. So I'm really committed to voting. I talked to my son today, who's in his 30s, and I said, so he mostly votes because I tell him, you will vote. But I said, what about your friends? And he said, a lot of my friends don't, because they are a couple of reasons. One is that they are working. They may be having a really long day of work. They can't get to the polls. But the main reason is that they feel uninformed. They feel like they sort of have a handle on the national elections, but they don't really have a handle on the local candidates. And I must say that this last time, I felt the same way. I got the nice form that said, here's your polling place, and it hadn't changed for the primary, and I thought, I have not been deluged with campaign literature. Who am I voting for? So I went to the website and found that actually I'm a registered, I will just say, I'm a registered Democrat. I live in Brighton. I'm voting for nobody because they didn't have a primary. But it took me a long time to figure that out. When I was first voting, I lived in California. Every election, they sent out a sample ballot. And it wasn't this thing that we get in the newspaper that says, if you're in election district 22 and 14th of this and the 27th of that and the 3rd of this, these are who your candidates, and by the way, here are the judges, and here are the other things. And it takes a long time to get through that. They sent out a ballot that said, this is who you're voting for. And it was easier to think about. We have the electronic ability now on the website. You can go and put in your name and your address and your date of birth and find out all these districts and who you're voting for. Can they send those out to you electronically ahead of time? Send you an email and say, by the way, in 2 weeks or next week, this is what your ballot, your personal ballot's going to look like. That, to me, would help inform a whole lot of people. And I would really like to see that happen.
Yes, that's the co-chairman should get a chance to respond.
I just to let you know, I mean, the ballot that you see on the website that you go and look at is the exact ballot that you'll see in the polling place. So it is exactly what you're going to experience when you get there. But I did want to back up, because you mentioned earlier about the fact of the early voting or voting more at home, say no vote absentee and stuff like that, and the concern about the issues that might, where somebody's pressured into voting. I think what has happened, though, as we begin to do more of those kinds of things, we actually begin to take care of that